Now let me introduce my guest. And joining us via Zoom is my own brother, a guy that's difficult to sometimes defend as a lawyer, but I enjoy doing because he always has the evidence to back what he does. Manasseh Azuri Awene. Thank you for joining us, Manasseh.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Hello, I can hear you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Right. Also here in the studio is Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, Director, Advocacy and Policy Engagement, CDD, Ghana. Daniel Ama Ato is Research Manager at the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, that's the CDD. And on Zoom again is Dr. Theo Echampong, Economist, Political Risk Analyst, and Senior Fellow, Imani, Africa. Dr. Echampong, thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Great. So start with you, Manasseh. How does it feel that CHRAJ looks at your documents and they commend you very highly for doing the investigations and also helping them with their own investigations to come out with the report that they've come out with today? How do you feel about it?
Well, I feel very good. If you listen to my lecture, which I delivered 2 days ago, one of the issues I mentioned as being discouraging to this work of investigative reporting is to risk your life, tell the story, and nothing is done about it. So it feels really good, and it starts right from the president to CHRAJ, and I commend the president very highly for not sitting on this matter and perhaps not referring it to the suspicious sources that we know, that when cases are referred to, we never get any good results. So I am happy that something concrete is being done about it. We're getting some results, but we're still expecting more.
In CHRAJ doing its work on the back of your report, Contracts for Sale, some revelations have also, been unearthed, have come out. Are you surprised by the further evidence of wrongdoing that you have seen in the CHRAJ report?
I am not surprised. I am rather surprised at the quantum, because information I have is that these monies are more. And sources close to the office of the special prosecutor tell me there is more to the amount that we are being told was uncovered as payments. I have always said that investigative journalists don't have the power to get certain pieces of evidence or information. So we often trigger allegations of wrongdoing, but if state agencies are minded to take it up, because they have the power to even get all the bank accounts and every information that is related to the individual in question, they are often likely to get more than some of us do, because we don't have that power. So I am not surprised, but I think there is more to it than has been uncovered by CHRAJ.
Right. So what I just referred to, on the basis of which I asked Manasseh the question, is that CHRAJ in its investigations found, as a matter of fact, that Ejenim Boateng Ejei, who has just been sacked by the president as the head of the Public Procurement Authority, and you remember that on the back of the investigations, immediately the broadcast was made, the president suspended him. CHRAJ found that inordinately large volumes of cash passed through his bank accounts. And there are a number of bank accounts we have seen, monies, millions of Ghana cedis. We have seen several thousands of US dollars in different bank accounts. And CHRAJ found that these monies began to go into his account when he began the job. So between 2017 and 2019. the money, according to CHRAJ, is far in excess of Mr. Ejenim Boateng Ejay's known income. And he could not provide satisfactory explanation. So CHRAJ called it unexplained wealth. Then CHRAJ also says, besides the excessive nature of the volumes of cash, the pattern of the deposits and withdrawals also raised suspicions about the nature of the transactions. Now, because CHRAJ cannot prosecute in crime, CHRAJ says, accordingly, the commission is referring the suspicious transactions in Mr. Ejenim Boateng's bank account to the Economic and Organized Crimes Office for further investigations under the Anti-Money Laundering Act as amended. So, what expectations do you have further about the processes that are supposed to continue on the criminal aspects of his dealings as uncovered?
Okay, I have read suggestions by some people on social media that the president may have not done his work thoroughly by not making reference to the criminal aspect of it, but I disagree with them. As far as I'm concerned, the president has done his work and done it very well. We should begin to put pressure on the other state institutions, such as IOCO and then the Office of the Special Prosecutor led by my good friend Martin Amidu, because they have a role to play. Going forward, I would even want the accountability to go beyond the CEO or former CEO of the PPA, and even the banks should also be questioned. If such huge volumes of cash should be going into somebody's account, and if you enter every bank in Ghana, you would see notices of anti-money laundering and measures they are taking and warning customers. So what did they do about it? Did they alert the Financial Intelligence Center when these monies began to get into this man's account? And if they did, what was the reaction they got? So I am expecting this to even go beyond the person in charge and also get to the banks, because if stolen wealth is difficult to hide, it will be one of the deterrent measures for people who want to engage in such transactions.
Okay, Manasseh, hold on briefly for me. Let me go to Theo. What do you say about what CHRAJ has done and what the president has also done on the back of Manasseh's investigative piece, contracts for sale?
Good morning once again. I think we must commend Manasseh particularly for actually sometimes doing this at the cost of great personal service. It is not easy doing this assignment, and having done that and done it satisfactorily, he must be commended. Likewise, I also commend the president for not sitting on the case and then referring it to the relevant authorities. So CHRAJ in the report rightfully said that they were only concerned with allegations of misconduct or potential conflict of interest, and not necessarily the corruption or some of the other related criminal elements, which rightfully is so. The volume of the report is quite substantive, so it shows you that they actually did quite a thorough piece of work.
Yeah, 188 pages of work.
188 pages. So it shows you that if we give these institutions the role to actually do the work, they surely can without that undue political influence or pressure, as we often see. So I think it's all well and good. What I would like to see going forward really is that the 5-year ban that has been imposed on the Mr. Ejenim Boateng, I don't think is actually deterrent enough for the level of the incidents or proven conflict of interest that we have seen. Here in the UK, people can be debarred for as much as 20, 30 years in terms of holding public office. Also, I think that there's a bit of a systems issue here, that the fact that we can such large sums of money can move through the financial system or the banking system without the KYC or AML anti-money laundering protocols being triggered, shows or indicates to me that perhaps, there's far more bigger rot that is happening in these avenues than one would. This is just a tip of the iceberg, really. That if we want to tackle corruption at the root and core, then part of it has to do with the way money moves through the financial system. And there are a lot of examples, not just in Ghana, recently with the FinCEN files, Panama leaks, etc., that shows you that we're dealing with a much, much bigger kettle of fish here. But all in all, I think it's good. I commend my brother Manasseh. I commend the president, and I commend CHRAJ for actually, doing quite a thorough piece of work on this.
Right. Dr. Sante, Dr. Echampong just said, this is a tip of the iceberg. Don't we need evidence to be able to say that?
Well, thank you, Samson, and good morning to your viewers and listeners. Also, let me celebrate Manasseh for this work. I think people forget that Manasseh is a very young.
Yeah.
The last time I think he said he's 28. So when somebody shows that kind of courage and selflessness, at the peril of his life in most cases, I think we have to really sometimes step back and acknowledge that we are lucky to have people like that in society who are just determined to serve the public cause. So I just want to acknowledge him, and also to acknowledge the president and commend him, for taking this matter, and for CHRAJ for delivering this. It's an election year.
Right.
It's not easy sometimes for these institutions to show, but they have, stepped up to their mandate and delivered a thorough judgment, which I think we can take forward. Now, the issue about what else?
The part you said about Manasseh and being young, and being able to do this.
Yeah.
Now, as his brother and lawyer, I can tell you something, that there have been situations, and some of them I have not even referred to him, where people have tried to get to him to compromise him. And when they are unable to succeed, they think that they could do it through some other source. And it can be very tempting. Yeah. But he doesn't even think about it.
No, I think it's a calling. Yeah.
When he was using only just a motorbike, he would not compromise. Not this time. So all of you people, we serve you notice.
Yeah, no, it's a calling, and and there are so few of them,
right,
that I think for me they are really national treasures that we have to, protect. Yes, I think for me this was a racket, right from the beginning, because this is a particular case that work had already has started. The Auditor General was, had already identified a few things. The Special Prosecutor, they were all looking into this matter. So it's one of the most perverse things that you can imagine, that the person who has been entrusted with the responsibility of regulating public procurement is the one that basically creates this scheme, to abuse that process and take advantage.
Procurement is the biggest avenue for corruption.
Yeah.
The big corruption.
Is the biggest. And so for me, there are a couple of things that has to happen. Yes, the corruption aspects has to be looked at by the Special Prosecutor. The case is already before him. I think this particular judgment makes it easy. You know where to follow, which leads you have to follow. The anti-money laundering part has been sent to Yoko. I think they need to consolidate, their efforts, because if criminal charges might be brought, you can easily combine your efforts and your resources to pursue this. Asset recovery, that's the other thing that we have to look at. But often, because asset recovery is conviction-based, it's important, to establish criminality so you can move forward.
As we speak, CHRAJ may not have taken steps or have the power to freeze the monies.
Yeah.
So if the special prosecutor is already dealing with this matter and Yoko is supposed to deal with it, they all have the power to go for freezing orders. So that these monies don't get missing from the bank accounts.
And you remember that CHRAJ also, under the Constitution, if your asset declaration is reviewed and you cannot explain wealth that you have acquired during that period, it is deemed to be illegal.
Right. Unexplained wealth.
And so immediately, Yoko, if CHRAJ has come to that judgment that that it cannot be explained, and so immediately those monies have to be frozen. But the bank accounts outside of the country, we haven't even gotten there. So I think there's still a lot of work to do. And then lastly, just the systems issue that Theo mentioned. The public procurement systems, particularly the PPA, is flawed. I mean, what happened, both in terms of the board's inability to pick this up, was, for me, it's very, very surprising. And I remember when this matter came up, civil society did even ask the board to also resign, because this was such an egregious, so you ask yourself, how is the conflict of interest disclosures done?
Are you suggesting that it is difficult for the board to claim it was unaware of all the things that Manasseh discovered about the head setting up his own private company and diverting all the things into there and directing people to go there to buy the contracts, state contracts?
So what I ask myself is that, what kind of information does the board technical committee review? If somebody comes for approval for restricted tendering, what is the profile of the company, who the directors are? If this person owns all these companies, that would obviously be revealed immediately. So how could anybody skip that?
So the board is complicit, you suspect?
For me, I think that there is something fundamentally wrong with the structures that have been put in place at the Public Procurement Authority. That it needs review. In other places, for something like, as I said, as perverse as this, you have a commission even go in to look at the entire systems. You can sack one person, but there might be a fundamental problem with that whole setup. You have to look at, their conflict of interest disclosure forms. Maybe there are actually gaps in that. Look at the board technical committee, its procedures for reviewing. So I think there's more to be done, because we cannot get a handle on regulating procurement properly without the PPA, completely having Chinese walls around how it operates.
All right. Thank you. So, I don't know, what do you have to say briefly? And let's look at it in the general perspective of the grand corruption. Look, there are petty thieves around. They get all the hefty jail terms. We are quick to throw them into jail. But we also know, not only anecdotal evidence, that the political class is in big-time grand corruption. Millions. Manasseh's investigations show that bin liner contracts in which the inflation of the sums involved, if you put 3-4 ministries together, the entire budget for 3-4 ministries was not up to one single contract. Which contract was inflated by more than 90%.
Well, before I comment on this, let me also add my voice to congratulate Manasseh and also congratulate the president for doing what most of us expected of him. Above all, I'm so happy that CHRAJ was able to muster the courage to release this kind of report, looking at a season, like my colleague said, because it's not an easy thing to release such a report without having some kind of political pressure on the institution. If my memory serves me right, I remember when I watched Manasseh documentary on this issue. When I finished watching it, I just shook my head and I said, if this man get out of this case, then there is a problem with this country. Because the kind of responses he was even giving to Manasseh on some of the issues Manasseh was raising at that time, I was asking myself whether really this man is not implicating himself the more into the issue. So for me, hearing of this conclusion from CHRAJ, it wasn't such a kind of surprise to me. It's something that I'm expecting. I even believe we have delayed so much on this issue, but I also do understand them. They have so much to do, and therefore, now for me to situate this within the context of the ground corruption that you are talking about, I want to even take you back to our Afrobarometer finding in, I think, 2017. That would be round 7. On the question of corruption, we asked people what they think should be the kind of punishment that should be meted out to people found to have corrupted themselves in public office. And surprisingly, one of the response options that we gave to the respondent turned out to be the one that he wanted. That whenever anybody is found to be corrupt and through the justice system, the person has been really, really found to be corrupt, what we need to do is to jail the person, try as much as possible and collect all the funds that he has been able to acquire through that corrupt practices and use those monies to put up a public structure and inscribe on that public structure that this structure came into being with monies stolen and retrieved from so and so. And for me, when I look at that finding, it tells me how Ghanaians have become so much disenchanted with the level of corruption we are seeing in the system. Because why would somebody think that when monies have been retrieved from you, money that you got through corrupt means, it should be used to set up a facility and then your name is written on it for generations to be seen.
It's interesting you say this about how Ghanaians become disenchanted, become annoyed about these, because your own service, recent ones, have found that we are almost at the point of a normalization of corruption. Normalization, where particularly because the big people are political players. Once you touch them or you begin to talk about them, and Manasseh will tell you his own story. He does a story and he unearths the rot. But the supporters of that political party's, political party will come at him. And you have known not too long ago that he has had to be shipped out of this country to protect him. So how do you reconcile the two? That we are angry about it, and yet we have come to a point where there's a certain normalization. And your own survey said that people don't even want to blow the whistle, and some of them for fear of their lives.
Yeah, you see, let me say that most of these kind of findings we are seeing in Ghana are also similar in what we see in other African countries. And I always tell myself that these things are definitely influenced by the kind of experiences people might have gone through. Look at what you are saying. He is trying to unearth some kind of corrupt practices, and people now are going through backdoor trying to influence him. If you don't, I believe some may be even threats upon his life. When you have such a situation, why would somebody be willing to go and report? You see, so we have a serious challenge in this country, and for me, I salute Manasseh for being able to stand his ground and refusing people who are trying to refuse him. If we get a number of people with this kind of character in this system, I believe we can do much. Because it's not about word. It's always not about having word, but doing the right thing. And so for me, I'm happy with this kind of finding that we are seeing. And I wish, like we are saying, even our financial setup, we need to look at it again. We have this money laundering policy, and these monies are going through banks, and they are taking it and transferring it, and no bank manager or is able to. I think it's a serious issue. It's a serious issue.
I mean, there were transactions from public institutions into a private account. How does that even happen?
Okay. Does that give you a signal about what they say sometimes? Those of you who are into this area of the anti-corruption fight, where somebody who has some power, or some people or group who have some power, may be aware, otherwise a particular corrupt activity cannot happen.
No, I think if you look at the chain, as I said, suspicious transactions, FIC, there's very clear rules about this. The timing of it, this is also a politically exposed person.
Right.
So the timing of it, the amounts of money that were dropping in dollars, in CDs, immediately it should flag. So you're asking, what happened? Is it that, you know, somebody ignored it, or, you know, the bank didn't do its job? I doubt. The banks are, because the penalties are very severe. Not
you
just...
and I, when we go to the bank, when we go to deposit, go to deposit 20,000.
Yes,
we'll be asked to explain the source.
Even if you send a check, you know, they'll call you.
Even when you send somebody to cash your personal check of 5,000 Ghana cedis, they will not.
So those banks too must be answering some questions. So let's finish up with Manasseh. Manasseh, so my last question to you is what your expectations are, because we knew that there was another leg of this case at the special prosecutor, and now there's another aspect that is going to Iyoko. What are your expectations? I knew that, what's the name? Ghana Integrity Initiative, on the back of your work, also filed a complaint, and you worked on some, you know, evidence and produce and everything else.
Well, my expectation will be that both Iyoko and then the Office of the Special Prosecutor perhaps would have to meet urgently even before they proceed, so that they don't end up overlapping in their roles. It is all towards the same goal, and since the Office of the Special Prosecutor has been on this since 2019 August, when this came up, I would expect that they should have some information, and sources within tell me that they have even uncovered more monies than what CHRAJ has. So if that is true, I would expect the two bodies to work together. But I cannot finish without also saying that we have praised the president, we have praised the CHRAJ for doing such a wonderful job, but we should also commend highly the civil society organizations that funded this work. And I'm talking about the Ghana Integrity Initiative and the Media Foundation for West Africa, because I said last Thursday that the critical journalism is dying, and we should be looking at civil society coming up with projects such as Corruption Watch, so that we would have very critical media people who will be doing this work with the right funding and also without the pressure from the political class and then advertisers who fund or support media organizations.
How safe do you feel? In your name, people are in jail. In your name, people have lost their jobs. I have an idea what it is.
Yes, but the problem has been that in the past 4 years, that safety issue or security issue has been more of a problem. Nobody speaks to me in the last 3 or so years that I say, Manasseh, be careful, Manasseh, be careful. And that alone has some form of psychological effect on you. Every single day, you find people saying, because of the current terrain or the prevailing atmosphere in terms of security and safety of journalists, be careful. So it is a very dangerous thing. And I think if President Akufo-Addo should win the next election, he should be concerned about the fact that I, as a journalist, I don't feel safe under his watch. I felt very safe under President Mahama. And I have a number of colleagues who have also told me they don't feel safe. So that should be the priority of this administration going forward. For corruption, even if you are a politician, a civil society person, even the president, if he intends to seriously fight corruption, his own life will be threatened to some extent. So the least he can do for some of us who are not as secure as he is to give a body language that tolerates views, dissenting views, and some of the things we do, because politicians will always be our friends, but we have different roles prescribed.
Manasseh, hold it. What body language has the president given to suggest that he is intolerant of whatever you do or the views you share? Is it that you want him to be commenting about people not laying hands on journalists, or what else do you expect from the president?
When Ahmed Swale was killed and then he went to the bar conference in CHRAJ, he made a statement to the effect that people shouldn't take it as an attack on journalists. But we know Ahmed Swale was threatened, put on live television by Kennedy Japan, who is a leading member of his party, and he asked people to attack him, not because of anything, but because of the work he had done. So if an MP is killed, and then we give all MP security, a journalist is killed, and then we say, well, we shouldn't take it as an attack on journalists. I can also give you an example. I was in court when the I group sued. And after I was going for my sermon, they claimed that they wanted to serve me, but they couldn't find me. So I went to the court and told the judge that I was here to be served. When we finished, the lawyer for the people told me, he actually led me to the registry for me to be served. And he said, well, my brother, this is not a case that we should be dealing with in court. If you apologize to the old man, we will withdraw this case. So I said, who is the old man? He said, the president. And I said, the president is not a party to this case. So why should apologizing to the president result in the withdrawal of the case? I was prepared to go the full length and said, well, I shouldn't doubt him.
Okay,
he's an MP
Manasseh,
lawyer.
Okay, Manasseh, so I'm your lawyer. I'm handling that case. I ask you to stop there. Thank you very much. Have a good day. And we pray with you and your family. Okay, thank you very much. On this note, we take a break. When we return, we go to ask questions about violence and how to avert it ahead of the elections. We are seeing rehearsals that guns are being shot in broad daylight, and the police is being blamed of doing practically nothing about these violence. You saw what happened in Ododo Diodo. We will be right back.